to God's Healing Ministries. In this presentation, we will be going over the two major roles of the United States of America in Bible prophecy, and also the major roles that the papacy and the United States of America have to do with one another before the coming of the National Sunday Law.
And we were told in Mark 13 verse 14, "But when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not, let them that readeth understand. Then let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains." Now we want to know the place where the abomination of desolation ought not to stand. And we will go to Matthew 24 verses 14 through 16 to find that place. And the Bible says, "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." So we see this place where the abomination of desolation should not stand, or ought not to stand, is the holy place, which is Jerusalem, according to Matthew 24. But we want to know who is the abomination of desolation. If we go to the book of Luke 21 and verses 20 through 21, and it says, "And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto." So therefore we see that the abomination of desolation, according to the Bible, are the armies. But we want to know which army in Bible prophecy. If we go to the book of Deuteronomy 28 verse 48, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor of the young. He shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, in the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep until he have destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down wherein thou trustest, throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee." Now the question that needs to be asked is, who is this nation of fierce countenance? And who is this nation that besiege God's people or compass Jerusalem? And we're going to let Daniel the prophet give us the answer. Now let's go to Daniel chapter 8 in verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nations, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. So therefore we see that the nation of fierce countenance is Rome. This nation comes after Grecia. And Rome is the nation that will put an iron yoke upon the neck of the children of Israel. This is the nation of pagan Rome, the Roman Empire. And we see that according to Daniel 7, the order of the nations, Babylon, Media-Persia, Greece, and Rome. Rome is the Iron Nation, the 4th kingdom of Bible prophecy. It is the nation that will besiege Jerusalem or compass Jerusalem and destroy it. And we see that Rome is that nation of fierce countenance. We go to Daniel chapter 9 and verse 26. And the Bible says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince, which is Rome, pagan Rome, that shall come shall destroy the city, which is Jerusalem, and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations, plural with a S, are determined. So Daniel tells us here that there are more than one desolating powers that will trample upon God's people. So first we see it's pagan Rome, the prince, the people of the prince, and then we see the end of the war shall be with a flood. So now we want to know who is this flood that will attack God's people. Now let's go to Revelation chapter 12 to find out who is this flood. Let's go to verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half of time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Now we see that the time and times and a half of times represents 1260 years. For the sake of time, we're just gonna move forward. 1260 years that there is a power that was persecuting God's people, the woman, the church, during this period of time. And we know it is the papacy, papal Rome, the Roman Catholic Church, the system. So therefore, the flood that Daniel talks about is talking about the papacy, the other desolating power. Now we're going to go back to the book of Daniel. We're going to go to chapter 12 in verse 11. And from the time that the daily shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. So here we see that this the only power that was set up and ruled for 1290 days or years was the papacy, papal Rome. 30 years the papacy had in order to be set up, and then 1260 years the papacy ruled the world. So you add 30 years with 1260 gives you 1290 years. So this power is talking about the papacy, papal Rome. So Christ shows us that the abomination of desolation is pagan Rome, the Roman Empire, but Daniel in Revelation shows us that the abomination of desolation is the papacy. So who is right and who is wrong? Well, both are right. Basically, what Christ was doing, he was joining two powers together, two histories together to be one. And that shows us a principle in the Bible that history repeats itself. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So therefore history is going to repeat itself. What the abomination of desolation did in the past, pagan Rome, is what the abomination of desolation will do in the future, papal Rome. In the past, Rome actually sieged Jerusalem more than one time. The first time when Rome besieged Jerusalem, it was a sign for God's people to flee into the mountains, as Christ said in Matthew 24. But those who did not believe in Jesus Christ, they stayed and fought against the Romans, and they left. And they thought they had the victory over them. But God's people, the Christians, they actually fled. But the next time when pagan Rome came back, 70 AD, Jerusalem was totally destroyed. And this history is going to repeat in our day. Now let's go back into history. What was the heart of Israel? If we read Jeremiah 3 and verse 17, the Bible says, "At that time they shall call Jerusalem the throne of God, and all the nations shall be gathered unto it, to the name of the Lord, to Jerusalem, neither shall they walk any more after the imagination of their evil heart." So now we see the Bible says Jerusalem is the throne of the Lord. But now, what is the throne of God? Let's go to Psalms 97 verse 2. Clouds and darkness are round about him. Righteousness and judgment are the habitation of his throne. So we see that righteousness and judgment, justice, is the habitation of God's throne. So therefore Jerusalem, the throne of God, of the Lord, anciently in Israel, was the habitation of his righteousness and judgment. So therefore Jerusalem had to be governed by righteousness and judgment. So now, what is righteousness according to the Bible? If we go to Psalms 119 verse 172, the Bible says, "My tongue shall speak of thy word, for all thy commandments are righteousness." So therefore the throne of God is governed by his commandments. his righteousness, which is in the heart of Israel, Jerusalem, the throne of God. So the commandment, the throne of God, is what governs Israel, the 10 Commandments. When you study the Bible, you will discover that ancient Israel is actually a type of the United States of America. In the Bible, Israel was considered as the glorious land. And when you study the Bible deeply, you'll find out that the United States of America is also considered as the glorious land. For the sake of time, we're not going to go over that study. But if Israel is a type of the United States of America, therefore we should see an abomination of desolation that should besiege the U.S., spiritually speaking. And we should see God's people fleeing to the mountains or the country. So this is what we're going to go over for the rest of this video. In 1888, there was a law that was about to be passed, actually a national Sunday law, which was called the Blair Bill. But by the grace of God, it was stopped through A.T. Jones. Now this history was a fulfillment of Matthew 24, when the abomination of desolation came and compassed Jerusalem. God's people had the time to flee into the mountains. They left. But the second time Rome came, all the Christians were not there. They fled already before. And Jerusalem was destroyed. And that is a symbol of the end of the world. That is a symbol of the National Sunday Law. But now, this history that took place in 1888 will take place again. But this time, God's people needs to open their eyes so they can see and flee to the mountains for safety.
Their duty to God. Our Sunday law is written to ensure the preservation of the Lord's day for the benefit of the people.
An admirable goal, Senator Blair, but completely unnecessary. Our Constitution already recognizes the rights of the people with respect to their religion. Your Sunday law would add nothing to our fundamental freedoms. It would rather add restrictions.
I'm afraid, sir, that you are blind to the realities of our age. If men owe a duty to God and do not willingly perform it, they become a corrupting influence in society.
Now, what we need to do, we need to connect the links. We saw the heart of Israel was Jerusalem, which is the throne of God. And the throne of God is His commandments. And His commandments is what governs Israel as a nation. So therefore, if Israel is a type of the United States of America, we need to understand what is the heart of America. And I'm going to read a quotation from Review and Herald, July 28th, 1903, paragraph 1. My dear brethren and sisters in America, for some time I have been strongly impressed that decided efforts should be put forth to proclaim the testing truth of the third angel's message in the city of Washington, the capital of the United States of America, or the American nation. So here we see that the capital of the United States of America is Washington, D.C. So now we see a big picture now. The United States of America, the heart of this nation, is Washington, D.C. But what is the heart of Washington, D.C.? What makes Washington, D.C. so significant? And what governs this nation? What commandments? Well, it is the Bill of Rights, the amendment, the Constitution. And this is what is in Washington, D.C. that governs this nation, as Israel of old was governed by the commandments of God. The Bill of Rights was written in around 1780s in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now we know that the papacy, the Pope, is going to come to Philadelphia of 2015, and this is a form of mockery.
To come to Philadelphia next year. Our Pat Shiraki is in Rome.
The hour is getting near. Very shortly, the Philadelphia delegation will be shuttled to St. Peter's Square. Awaiting them, Pope Francis, and the opportunity to seal the deal on the Philadelphia papal visit. No matter its size, the St. Joe's Prep football jersey is a perfect fit. A gift from Mayor Mike Laverne and a crocodile Jesuit trained, just like the Pope. Could it become the deal maker for Philadelphia? Come to Philadelphia.
The papacy hates the Constitution, and their goal, their agenda is to get rid of it, is to destroy it. And this is the only way that the National Sunday Law can be passed to the United States of America, to this nation. Not just that, but it is said that the papacy, the Pope, is going to go to Washington, D.C. and give a speech. And this is the first time in U.S. history that a Pope ever put foot in the Congress to give a speech. And this is Bible prophecy being fulfilled. This is the abomination of desolation, where it ought not, standing in the holy place, which is the heart of this nation, the American nation. Just like Israel of old, the holy place, the heart of Israel was Jerusalem. The heart of Jerusalem was the temple, and no heathen was to put their foot within Jerusalem, and especially the temple. And this is what's going on, and this is what will take place in this nation of America. So right after the Pope comes to the United States of America, right after that event, the National Sunday Law will take place. We don't know when it will take place, but it will take place after he comes. It could be a couple years, it could be a couple months, we don't know. But what we need to do when he comes, this is the sign that God's people needs to live to the country, leave the cities, move to the countries, and we need to take heed of the message. I pray that this video was a blessing.